Hello everyone. This video is an introduction to the Arbots. That's us, and you can see it there. Whoa, isn't it big? By the end of the video today, you will know the following things. Now, we've had our Arbots in school for a long time, and sometimes I forget that you might not remember why we have them. So I'm going to explain today a few things. 4 main points, really. The first one is what metacognition is. That's a really fancy word for learning about learning. The second one is why we have the Arbots in school in the first place. What's the point of them? The third one is what the different ones are and why they look the way they do. And the last one is how they can help you be more successful in their learning. So I love this diagram. This is a great picture. And it's about learning. So what learning is learning is a persistent change, which means a long-term change to your memory, so that you remember something. When you've learned something, it's in your memory, and you'll remember it forever once you've learnt it. And loads of things get our attention every day. And if we think about them, and we keep thinking about them, then we can learn about them. And that's what you do in school. So, for example, when you first start school and you're learning your sounds, you do them over and over again because you've got to remember them, because they're so useful for learning how to read. But what I'm talking about today isn't just learning. I'm talking about metacognition. And what that is, this picture shows it quite well. It's thinking about thinking. It's learning and thinking about how we learn. And because if you think about how you learn, and if you consider the way that you learn, you actually become a better learner. And that's what the Arbots are all about. They're all about helping you become a more successful learner. Now, I don't know about you, but I love robots. Here are some robots. I love robots, and I know that lots of children love robots. They're in lots of things that we do, and they're becoming more and more important in our lives. So I've chosen some robots, and I'm going to just go through a few with you. So we've got over here, I think you'll know this one. This is, Wall-E. He's from the Pixar movie of the same name. This is R2-D2 and C-3PO, very important robots to me. The first Star Wars film came out when I was only 4, and so I loved them. I thought they were amazing. Over here we have the Iron Giant, from the film The Iron Giant, but it's actually based on a book called The Iron Man by Ted Hughes. An amazing giant, huge giant. This little robot here is called Doug, and he's from a TV series called Doug Unplugged, which is based on a book. And I shared that book with you in assembly back in September, I think. But yeah, it's called Doug Unplugged, the name of the book. Over here we've got an incredibly famous robot called Astro Boy, and he is a Japanese character from a manga in Japan. Amazing stories, but also made into lots of films and lots of cartoons and video games. But that's Astro Boy. And here we have Big Hero 6 from the film of the same name. And lastly, this is one of my daughter's favourite robots. This is Plex, who's from Yo Gabba Gabba. And yeah, a great robot. So all these robots are around us in our popular culture, in the things that we watch, the things that we read. And we thought it would be great if we had a robot in our school. So we've got the Arbots. And here it is. Now the Arbots come together to make one giant robot. And the idea is that each part of the robot represents a different way of thinking about learning. So we've got R1, which is the head, which is about reflectiveness. R2, which is the torso, the chest area, which is about resilience. Then you've got R3, which is the backpack, and R4, the legs. Okay, and when they come together, if you do all the things and think the way that the robots think, then you'll become a very, very successful learner, and it will build your learning power. Your ability to remember things and the ability to learn will get better. So let's have a closer look at R1. Now, R1 is the head, and it says that it's ready, willing, and able to think about its learning. And to be an effective learner, to be a successful learner, you need to be able to plan, you need to be able to monitor and adapt and understand how you learn. It's not just about what you learn, it's about how you learn. Okay, and that's really important. And being an effective learner includes such as things like planning. So when you're planning a piece of writing or planning a picture or planning something, revising, so making changes to something, and also being able to adapt and take a different direction. But to be able to do these things, there are 4 things that I want to talk about. And these are these. The first one is looking carefully. Now, this isn't about looking carefully at things around you. This is about looking carefully at your learning. So, often when you learn something, you don't transfer that skill to somewhere else. But if you're thinking about the learning and you're really looking carefully at it, then what that does is it helps you transfer that skill. So look carefully at the learning and think, have I seen anything like this before? And that's why this part of the Arbot has got lots of eyes. If you notice, it's got 2 main eyes, but it's also got 4 extra eyes. And those 4 extra eyes help it look at its learning very, very closely. Next up, it's thinking about what to do. And you can see the Arbot 1 here having a good think about something. I think it's thinking about what equipment it might want to use. And thinking about what you do, thinking about your learning before you do it, helps you make better decisions about your learning. And sometimes what happens in class is the teachers do this bit for you. They tell you what you've got to do, and off you go, do your learning. But actually having a pause and thinking about your learning and thinking about what you're going to do is a really important thing. Next up is thinking about what you know. And you can see that R1 here is thought about something that it knows. When we learn something, we always base it on something we know already. So if I was to talk to you about, adding numbers, so if you know how to add 2 and 3, you might know how to add 20 and 30. Because what you do is you think about what you know. And then when you learn something new, it sticks on to the things that you knew and you know already. So thinking about what you know is really important. And last but not least is thinking about what you're learning. And it's really important that when you are doing your learning that you are actually thinking about it and thinking, actually, I might need to change that bit. I might need to revise that bit. Now, this is always really hard. I used to find this really hard when I was little. I still do a bit now. Is changing something that you've done and revising it to make it better. Sometimes I used to feel like, well, I've done it now. I don't want to do any more. But actually, it's really important that we reflect and we think, actually, I think I might need to change that bit. Because in all honesty, nobody does it absolutely perfect first time round. So to summarise, you can call on Arbot 1 to help you plan your learning, change and revise your ideas, distill what is important, so think about those things that are the most important, and be a meta-learner. And when I say a meta-learner, I mean being able to learn and think about your learning quite deeply. Okay, let's get on to the next one. Arbot 2 is resilience, and that's about being ready, willing and able to lock onto your learning. So, what sorts of things do you think you might need to do to be able to focus? Because that's what you need to be able to do when you're learning, is you really need to be able to focus. And there's lots of different strategies that you can have which can help you. So I'm going to go through some of these. The first thing is good concentration. And you can see over here that Arbot 2 is really concentrating hard. And that's very important. You've got to be able to concentrate to have those tools. And sometimes it can be very difficult to concentrate. Sometimes you can read something and it won't go in. Sometimes your teacher might say something and you'll find it difficult. But ways to help you concentrate is to use your ears and your eyes, and also to talk about learning. That's a good way to concentrate to make sure that you're on the right track. Secondly, you want to keep trying. You can see Arbot 2's built this amazing structure out of blocks. But I'd imagine that what would have happened is that they would have fallen over quite a lot. And it can really be really disappointing when things don't go your way and things you don't get that success straight away. Well, what you've got to do is you've got to keep trying. And this is what Arbot 2 is all about, and you can see it there. And sometimes what you've got to do is you've got to slow down and just keep trying. Okay, so that's the next one. Keep trying. After that, hey, mistakes are good. I've been in lots of classes, and I see this in lots of classes where children make mistakes, and it's okay to make a mistake because mistakes are good. We learn from them. When I was learning how to walk, I fell over a lot. When I was learning to ride a bike, I fell off my bike quite a few times. When I was learning how to my multiplication tables, my times tables, I got them wrong a lot. But that's good, because that's what you're supposed to do, because you learn from your mistakes. When I fell off my bike, it hurt, and I knew that I had to ride my bike in a different way to make sure I didn't fall off and hurt myself again. So mistakes are good. We learn from them. And the last thing is managing distractions. And this is something that gets more important every day because we've got so many things around us that can distract us. I've got just a few things here: music playing, people talking, iPads, things on TV which are really interesting to watch, things on YouTube which are really interesting to watch. But actually what we need to be able to do is we need to be able to manage those distractions. We need to be able to say, no, stop. I've got things that I need to focus on, and I'm going to focus on them. Because that's what you need to do. You need to lock on to that learning. So, RBOT 2 can help you. Resilience can help you, and it can call on RBOT 2 to help you become absorbed in your learning. So you're really concentrating on it. Call on it to help you manage your distractions. Call on it to help you notice those important details, so you're really concentrating on those things by listening and watching, and also persevere where things get difficult, because that's what you've got to do. When things get too hard, you've got to persevere. The next RBOT, obviously, is RBOT 3, and that's about being ready, willing and able to learn in different ways, because we don't all the time learn in the same way. Some things we learn in different ways, some things are better suited to us, but we need to know, and we need to think about those different things. So let's have a look at the things. Most important is asking questions, really. One of the most important things. If you don't ask questions about things, then you're just going to accept everything that's told to you. You need to ask those questions, because questions help you understand things. It helps you think about things. It helps you ponder things. They are a really useful learning tool. When you ask a question, what you do is when you get the answer, it helps you clarify your understanding, make it clearer in your mind. The next one, and another incredibly important one, is making links. See things that link together. We've all of us have got things in our head that we've learned already. And when we come to something new, we might think it's completely new. But I can guarantee that you might have come across something like it before. And if you've got something like it before in your head and you think about it, then it makes your learning more successful, because it makes it easier to link those. And that's what your teachers will do. They will remind you of things that you've learnt in the past. They will remind you of things that you might have done last week or last month or last year or last term. And that will help you become more successful, is making those links. Another thing which is incredibly important, though, is using your imagination. Imagination helps us and enables us to pretend and explore. We can have our imagination can be very, very active. It can help us rehearse things in our head, practice things. And what you do is you use your imaginations, lots and lots of your imagination, when you're out playing, and the things that you do when you're having that time. But you should be using it in your learning as well, using your imagination, thinking about, I wonder if, those sorts of questions. So using your imagination is incredibly important. And also finding another way. Sometimes you'll be presented with something, and I see people do this in maths. How do you solve this problem? And they might do it one way, but there's another way of doing things. There's always other ways of doing things. And that's why there's a picture of a roundabout, because there's not just one way of doing it. There's lots of different ways, and that a different way might suit you better. So we're going to call on RBOT 3 with its resourcefulness to help us ask interesting questions, make links between the areas of learning, notice those important details, but also to persevere when things get really tough. Right, let's have a look. Next. is R4, reciprocity. It's this really long word. Reciprocity. Really, what reciprocity means, it means being ready, willing and able to learn on your own or with others, being as successful working in a group. So let's have a look what 4 things we've got for reciprocity. We've got taking turns. Now, some people think, well, is that just games? No. Taking turns is essential in everything you do. Taking turns is so important when you're having a conversation with someone. Taking turns is so important when you're in your lessons and you're learning. It means that what you're doing is that you're noticing that you've got a role in something. You're playing a part in something. It's about fairness. It's about being aware of who you are. It's about confidence. And this skill really, what it helps us learn from others, soaking up their ideas and skills. So taking turns, yeah, it's really important in games, but it's important in life. And it's really important in learning. Working well on your own. Now, this is one of the things about reciprocity. What you need to be able to do is you need to work well on your own as well. And a prime example here is getting on with reading. Reading is a skill that you develop when you're little and you have lots of help with when you're younger. And then as you get older, it's something that you can do more independently. You might need to talk to somebody about it, but you can do it more independently. And that's what we want you to do, is we want you to be really working well on your own. Because actually, when you do work on your own, you can really get a sense of satisfaction. It's about your independence, and it's about you getting the joy of being successful on your own. Which is good. That sense of achievement. I did this myself. It's a good thing. Next up, we've got listening to each other. This goes beyond the simple hearing what somebody's saying. What it might mean is that not only do you listen to somebody, but you take on board that idea. You share those ideas. It does also mean when you listen to somebody is you might not agree with them. These two are agreeing, but it doesn't always happen when you listen to somebody, but you can disagree respectfully. And that's something that we try really hard to do in our school. It inspires you to have conversations. Listening to each other is a way of building those relationships and learning. You can learn so much by listening to each other. And the last one is about working well together. And actually, you need aspects of the other 3 that I've just mentioned to be able to do this. This is the skill of working well with other people, truly collaborating, rather than just walking alongside. Sometimes, you see children sat next to each other and they're both doing their own work. They might look at each other and go, "What are you doing? Oh, yeah, good sentence, yeah." That's not really working well. Working well together is when you really collaborate and you get something done together. And to do that, you do need to take turns. You do need to be able to listen to each other, and you also need to be able to work on your own if you need to in that situation. So we can call on RBOT 4 to help us be an independent learner, collaborate in a team, listen to others' ideas, and imitate good learning. When we take turns, when we listen to each other, and when we work with other people, we get the opportunity to imitate, to copy what they're doing. Not copy exactly, but copy, because that's how you learn. You learn how to speak from listening to your mum and dad, or whoever was looking after you. It's a really important thing, being able to imitate. So those are our RBOTs. Wow, aren't they amazing? And if you use those skills, if you develop those skills, obviously there's so much to remember in this video that I wouldn't expect you to remember it all. But the great thing about video is you can re-watch it, so you can watch little bits and go, that bit. And also, I always talk about these in assembly. I make sure that we have conversations about them, and they're around your classrooms. So that's the RBOTs. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something, and that's why we have them. Take lots of care. I'll see you all soon. Bye.